The good news, if there is any good news, is that when we reach a point in time where we have acknowledged that it's the bottom, it's not going to get any worse, only can get better, it actually helps it get better. It actually gives us the sense, well, I wasn't going to buy that house last month because whatever it cost last month, it was going to cost less this month, and I'm going to wait until next month because it's going to be even less then. But when the Spirit infuses the buying public, if you will, that all of a sudden that cost of that house next month is going to be more than the cost of that house this month, we will see a dramatic turnaround in not only the housing sector, which of course drives the economy, but every sector which the housing portion of the economy aids. Home furnishings, services, the list is endless. I won't bore you with the litany, but I'm sure you understand the point that I'm trying to make. When I talk about globalization and what I think our global posture is going to be in the next 4 to 8 years, I think two very, very important things are going to happen. One is there is going to be a concerted effort by this administration to reach out to all of those countries that have been on the edge. They used to be in favor of us. They're not ready to be opposed to us, but they really don't want to be involved with us. And we saw that certainly in Iraq when we tried to put together the second coalition, which had absolutely no similarity whatsoever to the first coalition. And so those countries will then want to be back into what we refer to as the family of nations, but it is our family of nations. Those nations that have looked to us historically, continually, as a partner, a friend, someone and some place that is there for them when the need arises, whether it be in war, famine, pestilence, whatever the issue that confronts them. They have looked to us and said, we can be comfortable that the United States will be there for us. I suggest that the first and most important goal of this administration, if I am any judge, will be to make sure that the fences that need mending are mended as quickly and as affirmatively as possible. Having said that, that then gives us a platform to go on to those marginal nations, the ones that do not necessarily agree with us, do not necessarily like our policies, do not necessarily like our form of government, do not necessarily like how we have conducted ourselves in the world, certainly do not like the fact that we have historically preferred right-wing dictatorships to left-wing dictatorships, an anomaly which I still have yet to understand other than on purely economic terms. But that, in fact, has been our history. That, I think, is about to change. When President Obama indicated a willingness to sit down with Iran, and people looked at each other and thought that that was a mistake, I think are coming around to understanding that it is not only not a mistake, but is in fact the very thing that Iran needs from us. The legitimacy of being considered a member of the world community, even if they don't yet deserve it, is the best motivation to get them to want it. And I suggest to you that despite the rhetoric, despite the what we hear coming out of Iran, that willingness to engage them as we were willing to engage South Africa at the time of apartheid. Yes, we had an embargo. Yes, we said to them their system was wrong, but we did not ignore them. We did not write them off. We had constructive engagement with them for years. And that constructive engagement, I suggest, had as much to do with at least the earlier ending of apartheid than would have happened but for that case. And I think if there's anything to be learned from that lesson, it's that constructive engagement with the most awesome economic power in the history of the world confers a sense of legitimacy that makes countries who do not necessarily think well of us think better of us. And, more importantly, we live in a time when warfare is not simply not a solution to a given problem. The idea of war as we traditionally understand it, except in very limited circumstances, is totally antithetical to how the world becomes a safer place. I wrote a piece that said, in effect, that I don't know whether those 400 detainees at Guantanamo are terrorists when they went in. But I'm pretty sure that they may very well be terrorists when they get out. That method of doing business has to end and will end. I think if we pride ourselves in our Constitution, in its protections, in its vital role to play in our lives, then we have to say and admit that our Constitution does not end at the borders of the United States. That if it is right for us, it has to be right for everyone we do business with. And if they can't accept it or deal with it or respond to it appropriately, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But if we are proud of what we are, then we have to say our rules that apply to us should apply where we are when we are in control of where we are. I don't suggest that if we are in an area of the world where we are at war, that combatants should be given constitutional rights. But I do suggest that where we control an area, where there is no question that it is under the auspices of the United States, that to draw a distinction between our borders and those borders is to say to the world that somehow we as a country have the right to dictate where democracy begins and where democracy ends. If we believe in democracy, democracy has to begin and end from one end of this world to the other.